So I have a question. When you guys are reading a book or a poem for class, do you do anything with that text as you're reading it? Do you write in the margins or anything like that? Can anyone tell me what they do when they read a book, inside or outside of class? Claire?
Well, sometimes if I'm reading and I see something that kind of confuses me, I'll like star it or put a question mark next to it, just like go back to it.
I like that. Okay, does anybody else ever not star or write a question mark when they read in a text and then they forget what they just read either that following page or the next day when a teacher's talking about it in class? Has anyone ever experienced that? Brock?
I definitely have.
Okay, well, so what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about a strategy to make it so that you can actually engage with what you're reading, maybe so you can connect to it or to make it easier to remember what you're talking about the next day, or even when you're going back to write a paper so you can refer to the specific instances you want to use more easily. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about annotating a text. And there are a couple reasons that I like to annotate a text that I've already mentioned briefly. I like to use it so that I can actually engage in the text, so I'm taking an active role in what I'm reading. That makes it easier to connect to, so I can remember what I've read. It just gives me a more personal feeling with the text. Also, I like to use it so when I'm writing a paper, I can easily remember, oh yeah, underlining in pink means that this theme matches to this idea. I want to use that in my paper. So it makes it much easier to organize your papers. So today we're going to use a simple method for annotating, and what we're going to do is we're going to annotate the poem I Too Sing America by Langston Hughes. You should all have that out on your desk right now. And what we're going to do is we're going to think, every time we read a text in this class, I want you to think of this method, read. Recognize, evaluate, associate, and describe. Now, this may seem silly right now, but I promise by the end it'll make sense. So the R stands for recognize, obviously. So that's when you recognize a specific literary device in a text, okay? So can anyone name some literary devices that we happen to notice in poetry? Anything specific that you can think of? Brock?
A simile or a metaphor?
Very good. Similes and metaphors are great literary devices. Anybody else have something they notice in poetry that is specific to poetry oftentimes? Claire?
Alliteration.
Alliteration, that's great. Okay, so now that we know what we're trying to recognize in a poem, we're going to go to the next step. We're going to look for things we can evaluate. So what I mean by evaluate is when you consider what the author is saying about a specific theme or idea in the poem. And what I connect to evaluate, I would say it's probably when you're looking for tone or emotion, and you can see them maybe stating an opinion, or you think they feel one way about the idea they're trying to convey. So let's take a look at I Too Sing America for these first two, all right? Recognizing and evaluating, and then we'll do the last two, associate and describe. And those basically have to do with connecting to your own ideas, and then describing is when you describe basically what you feel about the poem or what you're thinking about it yourself. Not what the author is saying, but what you yourself are reacting to. So let's look at the first two stanzas of I Too Sing America. So, I too sing America, I am the darker brother, they send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Okay, I want everyone to take a minute, and I want you to use the handout that I passed out that has these questions here, and it also has our read method above. And I want you to look at these questions and consider them in the first stanza. Let's take about 15 seconds to consider what we are looking at in the first stanza, okay? All right, everybody, let's come back together and discuss what we are thinking happens. of 5 minutes.